Hi guys, and today we're looking at the Nissan Juke. Now the new Nissan Juke, the second generation car, which is this one, has actually been out since 2019, but for this year it gets a new drivetrain. The new drivetrain is a hybrid. Now it's one of those really clever hybrids. It's an inline and a range extender hybrid. It's got a generator and an electric motor that's 15 kilowatt, 36 kilowatt, so that's quite a lot of that combined. It does have a 1.6 litre four-cylinder petrol engine. As a result, this car has more horsepower than the regular one that's just purely internal combustion engine. So they say that the power is up 25%, but the economy is improved by 20%. So you get 143 horsepower from this compared to 114 for the regular car. That gives you a slightly better acceleration time of 10.1 seconds versus 11 point something for the other one. I'll put the specs and everything on screen because I am at a media drive, so I haven't got all the details to hand. There's a few other changes to the car. There's a new Nissan logo is on the car. The grille has been changed. It's an active grille, and there's a few other little discrete badges and stuff around the car for you to be able to identify this as the hybrid car. This also is a new color. This is magnetic blue. It's a launch color for this car. How much are these cars? Well, they are available. You know, the Nissan Juke has a 5 trim level range. This one only comes in the top 3 specs that are available. Generally, there's a price differential between the automatic internal combustion engine regular car and this one of about £1,700. So this one starts about 27,250 or so and goes up to just over £30,000. This is the range topper that we're driving today. There's an option of 19-inch alloy wheels, but this has got the 17-inch wheels on it. There's a few aero features that have been incorporated into this car, which also make it into the regular car because it's just better, isn't it? So that's what this is about. So with this car, we already know that it's a completely new platform compared to the Mark I Juke. That's been carried over to this, but let's have a look anyway at the boot and the interior, and then we'll take it for a drive and we'll see what it's like on the go. Forgot to mention, this has also got the black roof on it. That's how they come. So with the boot, now obviously because it now has batteries, they've got to put the batteries somewhere. So what they've said is they put them here in the back, and it's got about 10 to 15% less space than before. But having said that, that's a fairly decent amount of space for this size of SUV, as you would imagine. But actually, that's not all of it, because it's got one of those adjustable floors, and under the floor, there's actually another cavity there. Under that, there's a little compartment with tools and, you know, air compressor and all that to reinflate your tires if you need to do that. It's tire repair kit and all that. And you can adjust the floor as well. So you could move that down and give yourself even more room. You just have a little bit of a lip to get stuff over. It's got split folding 60/40 rear seats as well. Talking of the rear seats, I think it's time to get in there and see if I fit in there. But generally, it seems about as usable as it was before. Okay, so here we are in the back of the Nissan Juke. Immediately, for me, the side just comes in a little bit too much, but over here the headroom is fine. It's just this bit comes in. I think it's quite tapered. The roofline is tapered inwards. I like this seat back. That's very cool. There's a little gap there as well. That always helps to ease claustrophobia. In terms of legroom, no issues at all. This seat is obviously set for my driving position. I'm 6'2" with long legs, but my long legs are not having an issue here because there's plenty of knee room there. Good room with the shins, and actually, yeah, even the feet are not too bad. I can feel like a footrest or something under there, but there's not really an issue. There's a USB-C here, and a little pocket. That's about it. No vents back here. Grab handles, and we don't have a center armrest, but we do have ISOFIX child seat anchor points. And yeah, other than that, pretty comfortable. It's a little bit dark back here, but the front of it, if you suffer from claustrophobia, you might just want to check it out, or if your passengers do, you might just want them to check it out first. But other than that, it's quite good. Cool. Time to get in the front. So the reason I'm starting my walkthrough of the front of the car from here is as I walk close to the car, it should automatically unlock without me pressing the key or anything, because it has a proximity sensor for the unlocking. Right, so here we are now inside the car, and yeah, this is very comfortable. It's very familiar. There's nothing unusual or different here. So let's start it up. So the starter button is over here, actually. There you go. No sound, obviously, apart from the AC coming on because it's electric. But, and in fact, the fan is pretty loud. Let's turn that down a little bit. It's a hot day, so that's not surprising. So the digital dashboard, the interesting thing you'll see there is that the rev counter obviously has now been changed over for this display here, which shows you the eco and the charge. So it tells you what the battery is doing, it tells you how much charge you've got, all the rest of it. There's an interesting system in the middle here. If I press OK, hopefully I can flick through it. So yeah, so this one here, this is the energy one. So it tells you what the car is doing at any time in terms of, is the battery being charged, is the battery driving the car, is the engine driving the car. So all of these things actually come here because obviously it tells you what system is operating within the hybrid system. It tells you the range over here, and this is e-pedal. The e-pedal is the one pedal driving system. That actually is operated from here, this button over here, the whole auto hold handbrake, and this is the D mode, the sports, and we'll go through that on the go. The rest of it is pretty straightforward. There's a screen, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Google Assist, Alexa, all of those things are actually on there. These are the vents. The EV button is here, so you can drive on full EV mode if you want to just force it onto that. There's your climate control, little cavity down here, USB, big USB there, but also a power supply there, and also an aux thing there, right there as well. Over here you have another little cubby box, so that's quite handy, and of course the cup holders here as well. Nice bit of arrangement here with the door. There's a space for a bottle there, which is always quite good, and some more buttons down there. Glove box here, oh, pretty deep and quite spacious, I would say. Not too bad at all. This car is very well equipped. This is obviously the top of the range car, so it's got just about everything on here. So all of the safety security system, 10-speaker Bose, all 7-inch full color touchscreen is that one there. This one, with the only option in here is the pearlescent paint, but otherwise it's got everything, cruise control, telescopic steering wheel, rear view camera. It's got the, so you can see there, it's got the full 360 on the camera as well. Cool, that's all good. Let's take it for a drive. So we are on e-pedal, so I've got it on e-pedal. Now on e-pedal it does the one pedal driving thing, but it doesn't do it to such an extent that it becomes uncomfortable or unusual to anybody that's not familiar with it. It's actually very, very subtle. So you do end up using the brake as you normally would. It's just that it will slow down a little bit more than it would normally if you turn the pedal off, which is activated from here. The button here is for drive mode, and if I put it down into economy mode, it does visibly slow down. There is definitely a difference, you know, you can feel the difference when it just sort of kind of holds back a little bit, and I think it's cut the AC. I can just kind of sense that a little bit. And I go back into standard mode, yeah, then it's all right again. Now the difference between eco and standard feels more pronounced. The difference between standard and sport is less pronounced. There's a slight increase in throttle response I detected there, and I think the changes, from what I've felt so far, the changes are, it changes earlier and you get kicked down and stuff like that. One of the things I always say about electrified cars is that I feel that the ride is a little bit harsh, a little bit fidgety, but on this one it's actually really good. Now this one doesn't have the optional 19-inch wheels, it has a 17-inch wheels, and I think that probably contributes and probably helps. But actually the riders so far have been very, very good, and actually you'd be hard pressed to discern between this one and the regular car. It's very comfortable indeed, you know, even over these B roads. I've been on the motorway. On the motorway it's very smooth, no problem, but here on the B roads as well, it's very, very good. It's very settled, very well composed, not an issue. Now in terms of performance, it's not lacking at all. I mean, you know, on paper, you know, we're not talking sports car, 10.1 seconds, but having said that, you know, it's plenty, it's more than enough. The gearbox response is straightforward. You don't really, you can see from the little graphic in front of me on the dashboard, and I can see what it's doing. So right now, the engine is sending power to the battery, which is almost fully charged, so it doesn't really need it, but it's also sending it to the thing, and now the drive is coming from the, so you can see what's going on, but you can't feel it. Now we're into a 60 zone now, so just pushing it on so you can hear the engine working a little bit. So now again it's tricky because some of the cars that have this kind of technology where it's a combination of inline and range extender, sometimes the engine note doesn't really equate to how you're driving, because the engine is working but you're driving differently because what the engine is actually doing is charging the battery. But in this case it seems to be fairly consistent, you know. I mean, I'm like, when I accelerate I hear the engine, when I brake I don't. So I think the range extender thing works more on the motorway, where it's being a little bit more clever about it and you can't really hear it too much. But out here it's in sports mode, and we're going a little bit quicker now. There's a little bit of a change there. It's definitely holding on to gears a bit longer in sports mode. It definitely does that. Now, the steering is light, and it's interesting that there's a fair bit of movement there. The road was really rough, so they're just going around that corner. There's a little bit of movement, not physically, not in terms of the body of the car, but just in terms of the steering. Now, I was going to say that there's not a lot of feel in the steering, but having said that, I certainly felt the road in that. So maybe there is a little bit of a feedback there. So whilst we are negotiating around the wrong turning, as I've made, so you got full 360 camera, and very easy and light steering. That always helps when you make these sort of mistakes. Now, visibility out towards the rear. Now, that 360 camera is really quite helpful because the C-pillars on this car, and I think that, to be honest, if I remember correctly, it's always been a bit of Juke thing, because the rear window is quite a small opening and the C-pillars are quite obstructive in that sense. But actually, so the camera really helps in being able to negotiate yourself around when you're having to do 3-point turns and stuff like that, parking maneuvers and what have you. And once again, you know, rough surface, but the car is not getting upset. You can hear a little bit of thudding and bumping going on, but you can't really feel it too much. So the ride actually is very, very good. The response is not too bad. You know, it's not a sports car sharp, but it is reasonably faithful. And it's engaging enough, you know, I mean, it's enjoyable enough. I remember even testing the old Juke. I remember driving it once as a manual and actually having a really good time in it. It was actually quite an enjoyable drive, it turned out to be. And when you really accelerate hard on this car, you see the little bars, and you see both bits are actually then charging. You got the engine and the battery going towards the wheels to basically give you the acceleration that you want. I can scroll through this and actually, okay, it gives you the compass and lots of information on there as well, what radio you'll be listening to and all the rest of it. Settings, it gives you the speed digitally as well, you can see the speed, and it gives you the miles per gallon. So 42.9 is what I've done, and it's been reasonably spirited driving, let's be honest, so it's not been the most economical driving. So 42.9 actually is very, very good. So again, back to that indicator where it's showing you what it's doing. And it's quite, and again, you know, you're trying to see if you can, I mean, I am anyway, I'm trying to see if I can feel, you know, when the systems are changing, but you really can't, you know, it's really very subtle if there's any changes going on. And like I said, even the engine noise is very consistent with what you're doing. Yeah, just kick down, the engine comes back in again, and it's very, very good. So performance is very handy, not an issue at all, you'll never find it wanting. And again, on the motorway, it was very happy to keep up with traffic without any issue at all. Brakes are good, linear, you know, and not grabby or anything like that. Very consistent, very linear. So exactly as you'd expect them to be. So now that we're pushing on a bit, we can start to feel the firmness in the body. Just when it goes over some really rough ground like it is just there. Slight movement, slight bit of understeer there, but really only because I think the surface upset the car rather than that being an inherent part of it, because actually it's been pretty faithful so far. So we're back down to speed because we're in a little village now, and this is where, you know, the car really works, because it's that sort of urban-esque SUV, you know, it gives you the height, it gives you the feeling of being in an SUV, it gives you that reassurance and what have you, but really this is where it kind of feels the most comfortable. So these are made for ferrying families about town. This is really what they're meant to do. And in that sense, you think, well, it's totally suited for purpose. That's what it's all about. But as a driver sitting here, not only am I in a comfortable driving position and I've got everything in front of me, but you know, it's quite a nice display in front of me. And also, when you look over here, there's a shiny surface around the vents, which stands out, makes it feel a little bit different. Then there's soft touch on the dashboard and leather-esque, you know, and then there's some harder surfaces on the dashboard, on the glove box, which is what you would expect. And there's nice feel to the buttons and the controls. It's got heated seats as well, which I'm not using today because it's a very warm day. 23 degrees is saying right now outside, unusual for the UK, but there you go. And all the controls and facilities that you would need close at hand. There's a real quality feel about it. The center console again is in that shiny stuff. That's a bit of a Juke thing though, isn't it? They've always had that, haven't they? Then wasn't that color coordinated? I'm wondering. I think maybe in the early ones it was, or maybe it still is an option. I'm not sure. Let me know if you know otherwise. But anyway, that's there. So it's a nice place to be. It's a nice environment. It all works really well. And I think that really, oh, and this is a nice feature. You can actually, you can't do it at this speed, but there's actually a button underneath the screen that says camera. So you can instantly go to camera, which I always find really helpful. Because you don't have to go into reverse camera, but if you're maneuvering or parking or getting through a tight gap or something like that, you can click camera and then you can see that. So that's really useful. So there you go. There's our quick drive review of the Nissan Juke now and its new hybrid, guys. And let me know what you think of the car in the comments below. For me, it's a thumbs up. I've locked myself in.
A big shout out and thanks to Jay Williams over at AirTechnic, who are top tier sponsors of Brown Car Guy. Check them out at AirTechnic Co UK for exhausts, brakes, suspension and body kits. Plus our other major sponsor, Nayagen Solutions. Much appreciation also to tier 4 sponsors, Muhammad Ali Humaid, Tom Conway Gordon and Reza Adil. And of course all these other guys who supporting on Patreon. Brown Car Guy is eternally grateful. Hey, think about joining them over at Patreon.com Brown Car Guy. If you can't, don't worry. Just make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel and website. Plus follow on social media by searching for Brown Car Guy.